here, not just for the trial that's happening downtown Minneapolis over the death of George Floyd, but they see this. They see an officer who, even if it's accidental, an officer who shoots a young man, a 20-year-old father of a young child who is just starting off in life, and they see that officer treated in a different way than they would be treated, than that young man was treated, certainly. And certainly if somebody died, none of the people out here would have been treated like that officer's been treated now, who resigned today. The chief of police also resigned today. But there's great frustration that there seems to be, that there are two systems of justice, and they are on the wrong end of it. Don?
Miguel, I want you to stand by and be careful out there. If you're just joining us, the breaking news is happening in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. That's our Miguel Marquez there, right in the middle of the crowd. Listen, there's a curfew that's supposed to take effect at the top of the hour, at 11 o'clock Eastern time, 10 o'clock Central time. And police are trying to move the crowd back away from the police department and really just get them to disperse. But it has been declared now an unlawful assembly there. Bottles, you saw one being thrown. Miguel Marquez almost got hit with one. Bottles are being thrown at police officers. Pepper sprays being deployed as well. They're also using flashbangs, as you may have seen and heard, to try to get that crowd to move back away from the fence, that gate near the building entrance. Also on the scene, CNN's Sarah Seidner, as she was last night, out in the street with these protesters. What are you seeing, Sarah?
So basically, the flashbangs have been going hard and heavy. Hundreds of people have moved down this street. Some people who stay in these apartments have left. I do want to mention that the flashbangs have come so close to each and every one of us, blowing up right in front of us. Water bottles being thrown, the flashbangs are the next thing, and then the tear gas also comes. Jake just experienced something. Tell me, Jake, what is it that you just experienced?
So people were throwing water bottles and shit like that, stuff like that, I'm sorry. And then they started tear gassing people. We started running away. That's just fireworks. But as I was running away, I got hit in the back of my leg, and I got hit with a rubber bullet. I don't know if it was a plastic or a rubber bullet.
Let me ask you about the crowd. This is a crowd that is a very mixed crowd. There are white folks, there are black folks, there are Native Americans, there are Latino folks, there are Asian folks. Is this the normal crowd when you guys come out to protest something like what happened to Daunte Wright?
Yes. I say that we're all sick of this shit, and that we all want to make a change. We all want to make a change, and we're all sick of this. So that's why we're all out here right now. It's not a white versus black thing. It's a racist versus everybody else thing.
What would you like to see? I've heard a lot of people talk about a lot of different things as to what they want to see from the police. Are you a person that wants to defund the police? Are you a person that wants to see the police dissolved? Are you a person that just wants to see better policing?
I want to see something like, not so much defund the police, but put it into something better. You don't need police officers responding to the things that they're responding to. You don't need them to respond to the things that they don't need to, and they end up shooting somebody for no reason.
I know we talk about mental health issues and that sort of thing.
Exactly. We don't need somebody with a loaded pistol coming up with an autistic kid, which has happened before, and they shot a 13-year-old autistic kid for having a mental breakdown. We don't need that.
Jake, I appreciate you talking to me. Go take care of your leg. I know those rubber bullets really do hurt. I appreciate it, and be safe out here. Okay, thank you for talking to me. Thank you, Jake.
I'm gonna follow you on.
So you're hearing the sentiment here, and look, folks, black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter what your background is. There is a lot of people from a lot of different places. You can still see, though, there is still action, and I'll take you a little bit closer. That is going to be a firework that's going to make some noise, but that's all that is, nothing to worry about. But down here, you're also seeing the flashbangs, you're seeing the gas, you're seeing the officers and the lights, and they're pushing people slowly away from the police department, where water bottles have been thrown at the officers and where fireworks are also thrown. The National Guard is here, but you are seeing a large presence. If you look to my left, Stike is going to show you the pictures of the officers coming with their gear. Can you see that, Stike? We're going to stop for a second so he can zoom in for you. These are folks who are out here, police officers from several different departments, and unlike last night, there are hundreds hundreds of officers here a lot earlier than we saw last night, and in a lot larger of a formation with vehicles, with riot gear. The National Guard is backing them up as well. Watch it, watch it. That was a firework, nothing to worry about. So basically what you're seeing is the presence of police surrounding that Brooklyn Center police department, and you're seeing them push people slowly out. And as you heard Miguel say, the protesters know that they cannot win in this scenario, but they will be back. And their idea of winning is to keep bringing attention every time someone is hurt or killed by a police officer in what they see as an unjust reason. And so over and over and over again. But I do want to mention something that happened just before the sort of, violence kind of exploded. And that is that there were several people on their knees. They sat there for 9 minutes and 30 seconds. There were tears in their eyes. It was uncomfortable. And they were trying to express and show what it would be like to be down on the ground like that for 9 minutes and 30 seconds. 9 minutes, 29 seconds is just how long George Floyd lied there with a knee on his neck, according to the prosecution and the videotapes that we've all seen. And they were trying to express that this is another form of protest. And they did that right outside of the police department. They were not throwing bottles. They were not doing any of this. They were just simply sitting there so that everyone could see how long that really is. And at the 3-minute mark, they mentioned that at this point, George Floyd had lost, he wasn't breathing, he had lost consciousness, he wasn't moving for sure, and they talked a lot about that. And then they said, don't judge the other protesters for what they're doing because they're angry, and this is how they show it. Don?
Sarah Seidner on the scene of more unrest tonight in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Sarah, stand by. Be safe. We'll get back to you shortly. I want to get to CNN's Omar Jimenez, also live in Brooklyn Center. Omar, there's a ton of police presence there, and I would imagine that Brooklyn Center, the size, their officers must be from surrounding areas, obviously, and members of the National Guard there, correct?
That's right, Don. And basically what we're at right now, to sort of contextualize this law enforcement response, was that before the Derek Chauvin trial, again, separate from this, even began, the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, sort of laid out these 3 phases. Phase 1 would be sort of when the jury selection was happening there, that lowest level of alert, all the way to level 3, and that would be the highest level, a level they were not prepared to go to until we got to verdict deliberations in that trial. We're not there yet we have now been upgraded to that level 3, which now informs all of those law enforcement partners that make up what's called Operation Safety Net here in Minneapolis, which again is a combination of state patrol, local law enforcement, and more. And we are seeing that come into practice in situations like this outside the Brooklyn Center Police Department, for example. Right now, we saw the most forceful bit of this when it happened earlier. Now, this is what's left. You have at least one guy standing a half block away from a dark police line silhouetted with their flashing lights with his hands up, a symbol really of what we have seen over the past year since we were in this very part of the country a little close to a year ago, I should say. These are the remnants of the protesters. Just about 10 minutes ago, they were on that block in the streets where those officers are now holding the line. And even though they've been pushed back about a block or so, they still haven't left. They're still standing here wanting to make their presence known, as they have over the past few nights in a row. And the mayor of Brooklyn Center here 2 days ago said that this couldn't have happened at a worse time. Well, in many ways, the attention of people here was already on this issue, and it was very primed to explode in the movements that we've seen over the past few days. They're all booing now because every once in a while, Hennepin County sheriff's officers get on the loudspeaker and tell them to disperse after they've declared it an unlawful assembly, to which everyone starts booing, of course, yelling things back in return. And this is the back and forth that we've really seen over the past few nights. Now, obviously, miles away, we are still in the middle of that Derek Chauvin trial. And when court got out today, the judge in that trial told the jurors, one, to have a good night, but also don't talk to anyone and don't watch the news. And part of that is because he doesn't want the jurors in that trial to see what's going on with this and be influenced or distracted in any way from what's going on there. And it was something the defense attorneys for Chauvin were actually nervous about at points, but the judge felt confident enough and the jurors that they could stay focused on that trial. Different case, but the same set of emotions that have felt all too familiar for people, at least here in the Minneapolis area over the past year, Don.
Yeah, different case, but similar circumstances there. Again, a life taken by a police officer. Omar Jimenez reporting live for us from Brooklyn Center in Minnesota, and you can hear the fireworks there. Fireworks are being set off, obviously, by the protesters. Police are using flashbangs to get them to move back, and it appears that it has been pretty successful to get them to move back away from the police station. There are protesters still out there, some of them holding their hands up, others, as Sarah Seidner said, kneeling down, laying down on the ground in the middle of the street for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, the amount of time that George Floyd laid on the street in Minneapolis just last summer. So we're going to continue with our breaking news. We'll follow all the developments coming from Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. We're going to take a very short break, but we'll be back. More of the anger that is spreading as protesters demand justice for Daunte Wright.
The bowls are back. Applebee's Irresistibles, all just $8.99.
We miss
right that they own the streets and that they have equal rights on these streets, just as police. I want to show you. Listen to this.
You are in violation of Minnesota State Statute 609705, unlawful assembly. If you do not cease your unlawful behavior and disperse peaceably, you will be arrested. If you continue to obstruct, resist, and/or interfere with peace officers, you will be violating Minnesota State Statute 609.50, obstructing legal process, which will be an additional crime.
So they're making that announcement, firing pepper balls. They've also moved large vehicles up into that apartment block on the far side, if you can see it. The line of police are now perpendicular to this apartment block on this side, and they're just going to keep pushing north until they can move this crowd entirely out. They are telling everybody right now to disperse, which we are moving back slowly toward the north as they move north as well. And those are fireworks going off from the protesters themselves. And we've been seeing that all night, and I'm guessing that shortly we will see the police start to move again toward these protesters. But the crowd has thinned significantly. The shops that were hit by protesters and were raided by protesters in recent days, those are right behind us right now. All those shops have been boarded up. Shops in downtown Minneapolis have been boarded up. The protesters that are up here now are encouraging other protesters to now come up and join them. They've been telling each other to stick together, stay together. They've been giving out telephone numbers of lawyers if they get arrested tonight. Many of them wearing helmets. They have their own gas masks. They have umbrellas. They've come here to stand their ground, or at least try to stand their ground as long as they can in the name of Daunte Wright. Don?
Hey, Miguel, quickly, how far back have they pushed you? How far do you think you've gone since you have been on the air since it started?
We are about 75 feet from where we started this evening, and before it's all over, we'll probably be another 200 feet down the road here to the next intersection, I'm guessing. But yeah, it's not very far. It is slow, it is methodical, but they are pushing everybody back. It's a very big complex, so they have sort of two sides to protect, and it looks like they have lines on both sides of it, Don.
But it's also important, Miguel, to point out, I mean, these are apartment complexes, right? There are people, families, children, living in these homes.
Yeah, there are homes right next to the police station as well, which it would be a very long and difficult night if you were a homeowner in one of those homes. Just across the street from there, these are apartment complexes that police. You can see the car moving, the big sort of military vehicle on that side of the apartment complex now moving. That's actually on the grass and moving along the sidewalk. I don't know how they're going to get out because there are cars parked along that area. They may be pushing cars out of the way. away in that area with that vehicle. They certainly could. But they are trying to basically control the entire area from those apartment blocks all the way up the street. Don.
Hey, Miguel, just real quickly, another question. Last night, the air was heavy with tear gas. Same thing tonight?
It's been a lot of pepper spray. There's been some tear gas canisters tossed at protesters. There haven't been any that have been shot that come at a much higher rate of speed. But it's been mostly flashbangs, pepper spray, and some tear gas canisters, but very, very few.
All right. You can see there's a standoff there between police and protesters in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. They're trying to move them back away from the police station. We're going to continue to follow the breaking news. We're going to take a very quick break. We'll watch the unrest. You're not going to miss anything. Back in a moment with our breaking news from Minnesota.
Busted? Original Gorilla Glue, of course. Works indoor, works outdoor. It's weatherproof, it's waterproof. It's versatile and incredibly strong for the toughest jobs on planet Earth.
Experience matters. For over 145 years, more families trust ADT for timeless protection and 24/7 peace of mind. ADT, real protection.
I've lived with this stuff. You took down an army by yourself. You basically walked on air.
It was physics. Kung Fu. New series this Wednesday at 8/7 Central, only on the CW.
When traders tell us how to make Thinkorswim even better, we listen. Because platforms this innovative aren't just made for traders, they're made by them. Thinkorswim Trading from TD Ameritrade.
This is one of my favorite winemakers, Carmen Stevens. I back her through nakedwines.com, where I pay less per bottle because I'm buying directly from the winery.
Find out why we're a top-rated wine club. Get $100 off your first order. Go to nakedwines.com/TV.
So you want to make the best burger ever? Then make it. That means cooking day and night until success. That means best burger ever.
Intuit QuickBooks helps small businesses be more successful with payments, payroll, and banking.
The Harry's razor is not the same. Our razors have 5 German-engineered blades designed to stay sharp, so your 8th shave is as smooth as your first. And we never upcharge you for high quality. Harry's, available in store and at harrys.com.
Age before beauty? Why not both? Visibly diminish wrinkled skin in just 2 days. Crepe Corrector Lotion, only from Gold Bond. Championing your skin.
Check your free credit scores at Credit Karma. New delicious wok seared steak and shrimp. Order today from Panda Express.
Top 10 Dog Science Fair Project.
Look on TV! Calm yourselves. This is professional now.
I wanted to start it off with something a little light, so here we go. Surya.
The Story of Late Night premieres Sunday night, May 2nd at 9.
Hi, I'm a new customer and I want your best new smartphone deal.
Well, I'm an existing customer and I'd like your best new smartphone deal.
Do you?
Actually, it's for both new and existing customers.
I feel silly, but I do want nationwide 5G.
I want nationwide 5G.
Are we actually doing this again?
It's not complicated. Only AT&T gives new and existing customers the same great deals, like the Samsung Galaxy S21 5G for free when you trade in.
On April 17th, Triller Fight Club presents Jake Paul, Ben Askren.
Ben's gonna have to kill me to win the fight.
Jake has never ended a fight. He's been in 2 boxing matches which were completely lopsided.
Welcome to the show.
Musical performances by Justin Bieber, The Black Keys, Doja Cat, Saweetie, the homie Diplo, Major Lazer, my new group, Mount Westmore, live on pay-per-view, April 17th, 9 p.m. Eastern.
The People vs. the Klan, Sunday at 9.
Back now with our live breaking news coverage. An unlawful assembly declared in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota tonight. That's where protesters are out for the third night in a row after the death of Daunte Wright. Both the officer who shot and killed Wright and the police chief, the chief of police, resigning earlier today. This community is demanding answers from authorities, and it's all happening just 10 miles away from where Derek Chauvin, the former officer, is now on trial for killing George Floyd. I want to bring in now the former captain of the Missouri State Highway Patrol, Ron Johnson, who was tasked with restoring peace in Ferguson, Missouri, after Michael Brown's death. Captain, thank you for joining. As you're watching these very tense streets, all of this unfolding in Brooklyn Center tonight, please pushing these protesters back. What are your thoughts as you watch this unfold?
My thoughts are here we are again in our country, going through the same thing we've been going through year after year, and knowing that this won't be the last time. We have to begin to do something that's going to change this narrative, treat everybody with humanity, and gain some trust.
Let's talk a little bit about what this means, because they're saying this is an unlawful assembly. They're over the bullhorn there, talking about Minnesota 609, 705, which is an unlawful assembly, and then also obstructing a legal process. What is the point of them giving the law and the statute that they're breaking over the loudspeaker, trying to get these people to move back?
Well, I think they're doing that to give authorization to go ahead and use whatever plans they have to move the crowd. You know, I'm always concerned when we throw these curfews out there in the early point in a protest, because protesters they're frustrated, and they just want their voices heard. And I think we have to begin to separate. I've heard on some news stations, we have to separate protesters and rioters. We have people that are frustrated, they're hurt, and they want their voice heard to try to change things in our country and in their community in particular.
Listen, I remember you had the same sentiment in Ferguson, Missouri, that you wanted the protesters to be able to voice their concerns and to be able to protest, because it is constitutionally guaranteed in the Constitution, a constitutional right. But listen, let's talk about the similarities too, as well, to Ferguson, because there was major upset in the city, and those who ran the city, and there are major resignations today in this community. But the community wants more than that. They want answers. The acting chief saying today that he doesn't have a plan yet, Captain. He was only notified of his new position an hour before going to speak in public. What would you advise him to do at this point?
Well, at the onset, I would advise him and the mayor should have had a meeting and talked about what the plan was. And so when he got in front of the cameras, he could have gave a plan and gave an approach. But now he needs to get in front of that camera and tell him what his plans are. What is he going to do moving forward? And I think what we see, like we saw in Ferguson, at the time of chaos and at the time of these situations, everybody steps up and says, well, now let's have a plan.
Captain, please stand by. I need to get back to my reporter on the scene. Miguel Marquez, what are you seeing?
Right now.
Go ahead, Miguel.
The police have now moved in very, very rapidly. Look at this over here to the right side. You can see police moving in a line. The entire number of protesters, several dozen that were sort of kneeling and standing their ground and trying to remain where they were, all went running all the way back here. I want to show you sort of the street. There were several cars blocking the way of police, and there was a bit of a standoff because police couldn't move. But if you look now, police moved very rapidly up the street, made several arrests, grabbed several people, and then have reformed the line all the way across from the apartment building on the left side all the way to the apartment building on the right side. Watch your back. There's a truck coming through. Watch your back. Watch your back. Stay where you are, John. This way, John. So the police all the way to the right side of the apartment building here. It appears that they are starting to move again. So basically, they're reassembling, dispersing the crowd more, fewer and fewer individuals in the crowd, and then the police sort of regroup and make another move. They're bringing these vehicles in now with the very bright lights to let the crowd know that this is now their front line, and they will keep moving those vehicles and police officers up at will at this point. Don?
Miguel, I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to stay live. We'll take your pictures, and we'll bring you back in. I just want to bring in Captain Ron Johnson so he can help us out here. So we'll have Miguel and Captain. So, Captain, you are very familiar, obviously, with policing, with police tactics. What is going on here? Why are they doing what they're doing now, this particular maneuver?
Well, they're trying to disperse the crowd, move the crowd out of the area. They want to stand pat on the time that they had to say that this is it. We want you to go home, and we want you to obey our commands. That usually brings bigger crowds the next day. I think there's other ways to accomplish that. I would like more interaction with the law enforcement and the protesters that are out there.
It is, as Miguel is here watching and listening, he said all of a sudden, this happened all of a sudden. Earlier you said by them reeling off the statutes and what have you, that there was an indication that they were going to move in and start arresting people and maybe taking a more aggressive tactic at this point?
Yes, and so that is to give them a warning, and then they can make those arrests. And you'll see those arrest reports will say that we gave a number of warnings and those commands weren't obeyed.
Mm-hmm. Miguel Marquez, this happened all of a sudden, right, without warning. This line of police officers moved in to disperse this crowd?
Well, plenty of warning. They had been warning them for quite some time, but there was a long standoff. The protesters had several cars blocking the way of police. They stopped where they were for about 20 or 30 minutes, which is the longest pause they had. And then they moved very, very rapidly, grabbed a bunch of protesters. The entire group of protesters then sort of bolted toward the north. They're sort of hanging out in a parking lot now near here as well. The Dollar Tree that you can see off in the distance, that's a shop that got hit by protesters last night, broken into and set on fire. And then most of the protesters are now in that sort of strip mall parking lot, and police are reforming their line. They have the vehicles with the very bright lights in front, and they are continuing to make announcements that that the crowd needs to disperse or they will be arrested. They're telling media that we need to move to the north. And you can see on the very far side of this as well, another line of police lights. That's the south side of the police station. They have a similar line on that side where they have pushed the crowd back. There's one other street that goes perpendicular from the police station. That's where we've seen most of those fireworks coming from, and police are now moving down that street as well, trying to keep protesters completely clear of this area. Don?
What are they doing with the protesters? You said that they went in and grabbed a bunch. Are they just pushing them away, or are they arresting them?
Well, I can only assume that they are arresting them. It's very difficult to see exactly what's happening because these lights are so bright. So you could see them grab several protesters. They warned them that they would be arrested. They announced what code of law they would be breaking. And here we go again. This is the announcement.
Statute 609705, unlawful assembly. If you do not cease your unlawful behavior and disperse peaceably, you will be arrested. If you continue to obstruct, resist, and or interfere with peace officers, you will be violating Minnesota State Statute 609.50, obstructing the legal process, which will be an additional crime.
So I can only assume that those protesters that were grabbed by police are being processed for those crimes. Whether or not they stick...
Disperse now. Disperse to the north. Media and press, leave the area.
And this is another announcement they've been making, that media and press leave right now. We are moving slowly to the north as police move to the north as well. This is what has them concerned, though. So this truck with the lights on, that's actually somebody that's not with the police. There's also a car that's farther up on the north side of the street. And I think the police are concerned about moving too closely and too quickly toward this area because these vehicles, they're not quite sure what to make of it all. Some vehicles today have sort of come through the crowd very quickly. The crowd of protesters, police in some instances were trying to keep streets clear for protesters, but In some instances, there were cars that seemed threatening toward the protesters. Nobody was injured. There was no problems, but there were concerns among some of the leaders of the protest that something might be happening. So I think the police want to figure out what's happening with these cars before they move any farther up. This is sort of what started everything earlier. They waited a long time till these cars moved a bit. Once they did, then they moved very rapidly up to put some more space between the protesters and the police station. Don.
Our Miguel Marquez is out on the street in Brooklyn Center of Minnesota following all of the action for you, everything that's going on. We have other crews there as well, reporters on the scene, as well as photographers, and we have our experts with us as well. Captain Ron Johnson, formerly of the Missouri State Highway Patrol, helping guide us through this. Miguel, stand by. Everyone stand by. We're going to take a very quick break. We'll be right back with our breaking news from Minnesota right after this break.
My garden brings us together.
My garden is my therapy.
Find more ways to grow at miraclegrow.com.
Managing your money can be hard, but what if there was a secret financial control center that helped you organize your spending, manage unwanted subscriptions, and lower your bills? Download Truebill, your all-in-one finance app.
If you're tired and you know it, skip the gym. If you're anxious and you know it, take a break. If your heart rate variability is 50 and your body temperature's normal.
If your breathing rate is optimal and you know it, bring it on.
The most accurate guide on sleep, readiness, and activity. Aura. Know why you feel how you feel.
I always thought it was me, that I was the reason all these diets never worked.
New made me realize that I never really learned how to eat right.
This doesn't feel restrictive. It feels like a true lifestyle change.
Visit Noom.com and lose the weight for good.
Calling all builders, all welders and roofers, engineers and electricians. Calling all brick masons and boiler makers, steel workers and steam fitters. Your country is calling you to rebuild America, to create a cleaner, safer, more prosperous future for all. Tackling climate change, this is the job of our lifetime. It's time to build back better. Let's get to work.
All the parts that you need to keep her on the road. For work, for school, everywhere you go. But sometimes they can be hard to find. Rock Auto's got the parts for whatever you drive. Upkeep on that work truck, you just save some big bucks. All the parts you're looking for delivered to your front door. All the parts your car will ever need. Rock Auto. All the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com.
At the UPS store, can you believe all the Ings we fit under one roof? We're here to help your small business any way we can. Every ink for small business, all in one place.
The UPS store.
If you do this to people, you can produce violence.
He was descending into madness.
So he went and bought a gun.
How It Really Happened with Hill Harper. New episode, Sunday night at 9 on HLN.
Sound of Metal is nominated for 6 Academy Awards,
Your hearing is deteriorating rapidly.
including Best Actor Riz Ahmed,
You're my part. You gotta wait for me.
Best Supporting Actor Paul Raci,
We're looking for a solution to this, not this.
Best Sound, and Best Picture of the Year. Sound of Metal, for your consideration. Rated R.
You know, they put themselves in danger, girls like that.
And we get accusations like this all the time.
It was a party.
I'm a nice guy.
What's wrong, baby? You gonna take a joke?
I'm not the only one who didn't believe it.
I didn't do anything. You're not even that hot. We were all drunk, but she was into it.
What would you have me do? Ruin a young man's life? We'll make the rules.
It's every guy's worst nightmare getting accused like that.
Can you guess what every woman's worst nightmare is?
Promising Young Woman. Are you listening? Rated R.
I'm Ryan Nobles on Capitol Hill, and this is CNN.
We're back now with our breaking news. The third night of protests in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota over the fatal police shooting of Daunte Wright. Police have declared an unlawful assembly. They're trying to disperse the protesters. I want to get some perspective on all of this from CNN national security analyst Juliette Kayyem, also Tom Burney. Tom Burney is a former NYPD detective. Good evening to both of you. We've been watching these scenes of unrest, Juliette, watching this kind of sad ritual that unfolds in America again and again. There's a shooting. As well. Police are holding the line. Protesters are being pushed back away from the police station as we speak now. An unlawful assembly has been declared in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. There's a curfew coming up in about 10 minutes. And that's why police are trying to get these protesters off the streets. They're supposed to be at home. Off the streets are announcing over loudspeakers, saying if they don't move, they're going to be arrested and charged with a crime, and also another crime for obstructing a legal process, unlawful assembly and obstructing legal process. We're keeping our eyes on the streets of Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Our experts are here in-house, and they will be discussing what needs to be done, what is happening, and also as well, our crews are out in the streets, our reporters, our correspondents, and our camera folks as well, and producers. We're going to keep following this story until it ends here on CNN. We're going to take a quick break. Back in a moment.
The world around you may seem like an immovable, implacable place. It is not. It can be bright.
Click or call for a quote today.
You're watching the breaking news on CNN, straight to CNN's Omar Jimenez right now in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Omar, what are you seeing?
Well, Don, right now we've got basically the remnants of who have been left of protesters. You can kind of make them out here. We'll walk a little bit closer. We just kind of were pushed back a few moments ago, and now we're trying to see what prompted everybody to just start running, sprinting back from this police line. But all of these scattered cars are literally, again, people that are just kind of left over. While there are still people here chanting, as you can hear, the numbers are nowhere near what they were maybe an hour ago, per se. But you see kind of the relationship of where they are to this police line that is now advanced, at least the block from where they initially were, a little bit south of us right now, outside the Brooklyn Center Police Department. And again, we are now just a few minutes from what is supposed to be a curfew here in this area for the second night in a row. This night is a few hours later, and people are still here, passionate, emotional, of course, about what happened just a few days ago now with Daunte Wright shot and killed at the hands of police here in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. And as we know, the chief has resigned. The officer who fired that shot has also resigned. But people here want justice. They want more than that. Similar to what we've seen in previous cases like this that I've reported on, that you've reported on, and so many of our reporters across the country, that they want to see these officers charged, and they want to see the full extent of the justice system carried out on all of the officers involved. People here still loud and passionate, again, hours after first getting here on scene. Some of the more violent images that we saw in just the past hour and a half or so, police pushing people out, was different from what we saw in the earlier afternoon hours. There were demonstrations of marches, and people were giving speeches and sharing stories. And so people here are expressing what they've been feeling in a variety of ways, and they are doing it over a long period of time. And it's not just tonight, obviously. This is the third night in a row of demonstrations here in Brooklyn Center. And before all of this even happened, law enforcement in this area were ramping up for what they believed was going to be the most stressful part of time, I should say, in this area. And that was the verdict around the Derek Chauvin trial. Yet this happened, and they scrambled some of that same law enforcement, bringing them back up, calling in some of the up to 2,000 National Guard they had here on site to come out and respond to the scene. And this law enforcement response is a combination of the local law enforcement, the State Patrol, and of course the National Guard that has been called out to respond as well, Don.
All right, Omar Jimenez on the scene. Stand by. We're coming up on the top of the hour. It will be 11 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 o'clock Central, and that is when a curfew goes into effect. We're back in just 2 minutes with our crews live from Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Don't go anywhere.
You're unbelievable.
Applebee's Irresistibles are back. Dig in for just $8.99.
Fact! Everybody gets stuck sometimes.
My tax situation's pretty complicated.
TaxAct CPAs and experts are now on call 7 days a week. And they'll help you maximize your refund. File for less and get more with TaxAct.
If you're tired and you know it, skip the gym.
If you're anxious and you know it, take a break.
If your heart rate variability is 50 and your body temperature's normal.
If your breathing rate is optimal and you know it.
The most accurate guide on sleep, readiness, and activity. Aura. Know why you feel how you feel.
Managing your money can be hard. But what if there was a secret financial control center that helped you organize your spending, manage unwanted subscriptions, and lower your bills? Download Truebill, your all-in-one finance app.
Forget what your smoking hot moms and teachers say. Just remember my motto. If you ain't first, you're last.
Beulah Mae Donald knew that she wasn't done.
She brought a civil suit against the Klan.
We took him back to Mobile and lynched him.
This is Black Lives Matter in 1983.
The People versus the Klan, Sunday at 9.
DirecTV brings you the big leagues, where the lights and the stars are brighter under pressure. Now baseball is always on with MLB Extra Innings. Get the full regular season, now at a lower price. Out-of-market games every week. Your favorite players, your favorite teams. Streaming always included with MLB.tv. Game Mix has up to 8 games at one time. Baseball is always on with MLB Extra Innings on DirecTV.
You name it, you aim it, grime is gone. With the Sun Joe SPX 3000 Extreme Electric Pressure Washer. Extreme triple action power foams, cleans, and rinses grime away.
It's absolutely incredible.
Wow, look at that.
With the Sun Joe Extreme, you get over 30 times the cleaning power. Win the war on grime and go with Joe. Order now and we'll include 2 free brushes to easily clean all of this and more. Call now or go online to sunjoeontv.com.
I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We offer a free book on mesothelioma.
Call for the free book and receive so much more.
Call 1-800-831-3700.
A curfew in effect for a second consecutive night in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Police warning protesters to disperse. They're demanding justice for Daunte Wright, fatally shot by police during a traffic stop. That was on Sunday night. The mayor saying that the police officer who fired the deadly shot and the police chief of Brooklyn Center submitting letters of resignation earlier today. Not far away in Minneapolis, in a courtroom there, the defense in the Derek Chauvin murder trial presents its first witnesses, including a use of force